Hello, and thanks for joining us. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Mr. Jamie Parks from Muuvo. Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks very much. And you?
I'm very, very well. I'm feeling underpinked today. You're sporting the Kerfuffle home team colours. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to get wear out of it while it's this beautiful colour.
It's a very fetching color on you, Jamie, let me tell you. Jamie, we were talking a little bit off camera about where you guys help the industry, and I suppose one of those bugbears has always been the bits of our job as estate agents that we need to do that don't necessarily historically always bring in revenue. That's where you guys come in and help us with administrative burden and turn that into a revenue making opportunity, because at the end of every tenancy, you're going to have to change the utilities. It's just something the landlords are going to expect you to do. Notify the suppliers that one tenant's gone. Perhaps it needs moving into a landlord's name. Perhaps it will need moving into the new tenant's name. But either way, I can recall the bad old days of people having to either send faxes into the ether that were never really acknowledged, or wait for hours on the phone to make the switch over. You guys have come up with a way to make sure that it's a little bit more accurate than that.
Yes, yeah. So in times of past and current with a few suppliers, the services have always been there for quite a while, actually, sort of in general, as a whole. But it's as a time saver and a new process to what a letting agent perhaps or estate agent would do, is actually making sure that people get the right data. So you're talking like the serial numbers, and they could be 16 digits long with letters and numbers and whatever it may be,
yeah,
and numbers and types of meter. There's lots of stuff to kind of consider when looking at making sure you're sending the right details to the right people. So there's lots of room for error there. So there's probably, off the top of my head, if there's gas and electric, 14 fields if you filled it all out completely, and getting that right all the time. I mean, not the best of us would do that.
Not to mention time, time that you need to invest in getting that. So I can envisage, I mean, I've worked in many lettings offices over the course of my career, and I could tell you that when it comes to getting that level of granular info, we're not particularly great at that. If we've taken a picture of the meters at some point, that's probably the most we're ever going to have. But if you've got that data there, it cuts out having to go back to the property to check it.
That's true. I mean, the inventory reports, again, they've got a lot and more on, they're very good. But again, you've got to transfer that data from their paperwork or their systems over to another one, and then the CRM, then perhaps another one. So there's a lot, again, the time is still there. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot there to get right. So leading on to what we do now, I mean, the system and the processes are all pretty much the same as they have been for me for the last 14 years come next month. I think, yeah, it is. We've now worked over the last year or so on a new system that supplies that fresh data as a real-time update on a property. So whenever a tenancy is changing occupancy, so if a tenant's moving in or out, once they add the property to the system, we make, I think it's around 5 API calls, 4 or 5, something like that, to the main sources to actually feed in this updated information for the agents. So when I talk about the MPAN, the serial number, whether it's a smart meter, is it one of these fancy economy 7 meters, who the supplier is, the date of the last meter reading, there's lots of information now that we've managed to get hold of with our wicked ways, that's instantly available to the agent when they want to execute this change of occupancy.
Because you can, as mundane as this might sound, you can never tell what the tenant is going to do. So one of the bugbears is that a tenant moves in, they have the meter switched over from a regular meter to one of those pay-as-you-go things, and that
smart meter, or a new smart. They come with different serial numbers. So again, I think we're all meant to, by 2030 or something like that, maybe less than that, we're all meant to have one. So there's going to be lots of changes in meters. Some will break. some will spin too fast and cost too much money. But yeah, so there's always stuff going on. There's some fans on the road doing that. So the important thing is, whenever there's an important period in time in relation to the change of occupancy, we do refreshes on the property to make sure that it's all up to date. And so long as they're all up to date, we're up to date, so to speak.
So you've got accurate data. Your platform is there for the agents to sort of access and use, and it's free at that point. But not only that, it is also going to be able to generate revenue for them. And I think one of the things we forget sometimes when we talk about generating revenue from switching utilities, especially at the end of tenancies, it is a service at the end of the day that you're providing to a tenant. So one way or the other, those tenants are going to have to put utilities into their own name. And sometimes people avoid doing it until 2 months down the line. That therefore then leads to discrepancies on the landlord's bill. Inevitably, it's going to fall to you as the agent to work out who's paying the middle bit. And back in the old days, landlords used to foot the bill for those couple of months all the time just to get rid of the argument.
Yeah, it's a feature we've still kept in our system, actually, where there's a yes and no for other bills included in the rent. So, it's very old fashioned now, but I've got it there because it's a possibility. But yeah, gone are the days of the landlord saying, I'll cover the gas, water, and it's all included in the rent. But there are some, so it's still in there, but because it's there to facilitate any type of setup, really. But you're right in what you say with the tenants. I mean, the majority of tenants, they know they've got to pay their bills. It's in their best interest to get that bill process running ASAP, because if you leave it 3 months, you've got a 3 months bill, and these days especially, that's not cheap. You're talking hundreds of pounds, and if you've got tenants that decide that they don't hang around for long, they didn't get registered properly in the beginning, they move on, you don't get a forwarding address, they vanish as they do so well. There's a problem that right away there's the debt, B, where's that debt going? You can't force tenants to pay their bills. What you can do is make sure that the suppliers know who took over when. So if the tenants haven't been paying their bills, they know the landlords was closed and shut down. And if they do vanish off into the sunset with thinking that they're going to get away with not paying their bills, then again, the suppliers should know that it isn't the landlord's problem or the letting agents, or even us sometimes. They even try and send us a bill sometimes to see if, because it's
they'll have a go. I mean, look, I think that is saving a headache for further down the line, one way or the other anyway, because at some point you're going to have to deal with that problem. You might as well get it sorted out, but also give yourself as an agent the best possible chance of earning money from this as well. So the tenants are getting the best deal they can possible in terms of moving to the suppliers. And it's a whole range of switches that you cover now. It's not just because in the bad old days, you used to just have to take your chances with perhaps a bit of electricity, and if you were lucky, a bit of gas, but you can do it all now, right?
Yeah, that's it. And it's not only on the phone, we give the tenants when they move in. So we doing that work for the agents, like registering with the current suppliers and the council and the water. You're sort of warming up your own lead anyway, because a lot of the tenants, a large majority of the tenants are kind of like, well, that's nice of him. He's let them know and he's told us who they are. And we've got a fancy dashboard that tells us their phone number so we can reach out to them. So we're not kind of hiding away who their suppliers are to say, oh, we don't know your suppliers, switch and I'll tell you. That has been around. It's we operate like an open book with them to say this is the situation at your property, and as you know, knowledge is power. So, and if you get the immediate impression that you know a lot about their property before they've even got there, they're inclined to talk to you and listen to what you've got to say, or work with what you show them. So then we can start to wriggle in there some broadband, some TV, maybe some insurances, energy. When the market's sorted it out and people actually want new customers, they're throwing customers away at the moment. No one wants to keep them, but we shouldn't be in this pickle for too long. I mean,
no, I think that sort of crisis is, as it were, is there, and it's something that's playing out across the whole of Europe at the moment, and they're trying to work out exactly where it goes. But one way or the other, it will stabilize again, and then people will be free to sort of shop around a bit more. But it just shows you how it does actually pay sometimes to shop around and to make sure that you've got for the best deal possible, just to see what else is out there. And I think that those headlines that we've seen recently have probably hit that home more than ever.
Yeah, and the market's kind of took a bit of a U-turn. It used to be kind of like move away from the big suppliers, you move away from them and fix your prices because they're competitive, and they were really good, and that's how we sold in the past. Now it's kind of like be the friend of the big guy because they're the only ones that are around.
Yeah.
And not necessarily fixed because they're over hedging. They're sort of say if you want to fix your prices, they're X amount of pounds because they don't know. You are best to stay where you are, do absolutely nothing, and stay on the standard tariff that John up the road that's never switched in his life, same as he's on, which is mental, but that's the way it's happened.
Yeah, and just ride it out for the moment. So in terms of people using your service, Jamie, it sounds like it's fairly intuitive and easy to use. And it can be used by both lettings departments, sales departments, basically anywhere that a home move is happening. That's where you guys come into play.
Correct. Any mover, yeah. So we've gone with the single brand to sort of to tell people that we can help people that move. So even commercial people moving into offices, the home buyer, again, they need to, if they're made aware, they need to know still who's the suppliers at the property. So not along the lines of we're telling them you're coming because it's their property, they bought that. It's a bit different. And we can do, but if they've got a directory of you currently with British Gas and a split of Octopus, your water supplier is always going to be Thames Water and your council is, it's just a nice in. You're sort of wriggling in to their little move life there with a little bit of useful information that they would have probably had to Google or make a few phone calls to find out. And by doing that and putting some good deals in front of their nose for Sky, Virgin, Talk, BT, whoever that property has, they're inclined to go, do you know what? Yeah, we'll have a look at this. And if they've got some extra vouchers and stuff that we've got unique, then win-win.
I think from a customer service point of view, as far as agents are concerned, that whole home move process, and it doesn't matter whether you're renting a property or you're buying a property, but it used to be that the conclusion of a transaction was a little bit of an anticlimax sometimes because someone will come to pick up keys and then they've still got a whole lot of stuff to sort out. And the agents didn't really get to add value at that end of the deal because, all their glory had already been gone, all the negotiations over with and all the toing and froing over a tenancy, that's kind of already been done. But at this stage now, what you're doing is you're giving the agent a role to play again, which actually helps those people moving houses, and they will remember it as being a smooth transaction, being really easy to deal with. And I think that leads to repeat business in the future because people remember that.
That's right. So when movers are using the service, they've got that dashboard to keep. That's there that it gives us the opportunity to, along the life of their life, so to speak, pop in new products for people that have been somewhere for more than a year or 2 years, or new things come to market. There's a nice little customer base there of people that engaged with you when you were there and gave them all. I mean, it looks like we are giving them a lot of useful information and numbers and all that stuff, but that's all been built in the databases and the technology's driving all that. So technology is the hardest worker in this little situation. It's not tell everybody that, but it's been a lot put into it to make it get to this level where it's kind of like a very nice service that nudges them with sales along the way.
And it will remind them, won't it, that those various moments when they're coming out of a fixed contract or something, it'll let them know. And actually, for anybody that's fallen into the trap of staying on one of those contracts, it's easy to do. You negotiate these things. Nobody wants to have to pick up the phone and speak to an energy supplier. It's easy just to let it go. So I think you guys made that process a lot easier. Well, Jamie, thank you very much for coming on and telling us about it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
Easy.